My name is Anthony. Welcome to the Scalability Podcast or Scalable with Anthony YouTube channel, wherever you're at. Today we have a very special guest for you, Blake Sims. Got that right?
Got that right. Honored to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of your audience, and looking forward to being able to provide some value.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what, Blake? So there is so much that I want to uncover with you today, and really like the focus that we like to have on all these episodes is scalability, right? So first off, can we just start with number one, who are you? Okay, where do you come from? Like, give us the background.
Sure. So first things first, once again, my name is Blake Sims, serial entrepreneur located out of San Jose, California, born and raised here. I think the next thing you'll probably want to know is what is it that I do? My main claim to fame is we own a construction company, and in which case with this construction company, we specialize specifically in building ADUs. What those are known as is granny flats, in-law suites, essentially a small home in the back of your house. So with that said, our company is about 14 million in sales for the year. So looking to scale next year and hit at least 24.
Hold on, 14 million. How old are you, dude?
I just turned 29.
Man, he's 29 doing $14 million in revenue, guys. Like, I mean, man, that's just like very inspirational. I'm not even like close to 14 million right now, and I'm a year older than you, man. So that's awesome.
Appreciate that.
Big ups to you. My question to you is, and I like to get to know this about all of our guests, right? Like, tell us about your upbringing, man. Did you come from like a pretty stable home? Were you coming from a broken home? Like, what kinds of things from your childhood contributed to who you are today?
That's a great question. So I'd say first things first, I did come out of a fortunate family, if you will. Growing up, I was in what I would consider to be upper middle class. I knew that our family was doing well because growing up, I lived in a regular home off of Caudill and Santa Teresa, and one thing that stood out to me as a kid is that my dad owned 5 houses, 5 cars, and 5 motorcycles. Oh, wow. So I knew that we weren't experiencing an average life. Yeah. Now, with that said, of course, every entrepreneur goes through their ups, their downs. Growing up, I didn't really get along with my stepdad. I never saw eye to eye with him. He was a police officer. He wanted me to be a police officer really badly. All of my friends were hoodlums growing up, so there was no way that was an option. Yeah. And, I think a lot of my entrepreneurship came from my mom. Mm-hmm. My mom would actually let me sell candy bars at school. I would buy them 3 for $1, and I would sell them for $1 each. I actually was making about $300 a week since 8th grade.
Wow, dude, that's awesome. And just touching a little bit more on like, so you grew up like living with your stepdad and your mom?
Correct.
And all of these items were your stepdad's?
Correct.
So, and because of that relationship, you probably felt like it's not really mine.
100%.
Okay, I could definitely see that, man. So that probably put a little chip on your shoulder, huh?
Very much so. In fact, what it actually incurred is that over time, as the relationship wasn't really clicking as I became older, is that I started getting a taste of the good life or a taste of the silver spoon, but knowing that I would never keep the spoon. Yeah. Right? So 18 rolls around, 19, he starts to cut me off completely, and in which case I moved out by the age of 20, and I remember one of the things he told me, and I actually come from, a little bit of a struggle myself, and so during that time he told me, you're nothing but a drug addict and a loser. You'll never live a life like this, and it's always going to be hard for you to get by, right? Damn. I wore that, like, I had a chip on my shoulder because of that, and so to this day, Patrick Bet-David talks about letting things of your past be fuel to your fire. And so that's one of the things that truly fueled me was the naysayers and people saying that I couldn't do things. I think the next thing that I'd bring up that really drove me to be the entrepreneur that I am today is everyone saying that you had to go to college. I remember my mom forcing it down my throat. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. I remember telling my mother, hey, I went to college for 2 weeks. I told her, hey, look, the reality of it is I don't want to go to college, and I promise you one day I'll make at least 6 figures in a year without going to college, mark my words. Well, anyways, fast forward, I did that about 3 years ago, and this is the year where we actually broke that barrier to 7 figures in income in a year. So,
oh man, It's all right. So two things come to my mind. Number one is Drake. I just think it's funny how it goes, right?
Okay.
What's that
Yeah,
line
yeah.
he says? He said, I gave you the keys, told you bring it right back. Okay, so that's number one because you just got what car did you get? The Porsche.
We bought a Porsche Panamera Turbo. All glory to God.
Yeah, okay, so number one, you got that whip for yourself, which is absolutely gorgeous. I've only seen it on social media. Maybe we'll go to the garage later.
We'll let Anthony drive it. Let's go.
Dude, I would love to. I hear that Porsches are like the best cars to drive like in the world. But the second thing that it actually brings to my mind is I'll never forget. There was a time when we were sitting at a table with my grandma, my sister, my mom. My cousin, who always supported me, was there, and also my uncle, who just passed away, R.I.P. Uncle Rob. But they were all there, like telling me, like, Anthony, this business thing, like that you're doing is crazy. And it was literally like them, like 2 hours, like knocking me down, like, hey, just go get a job at the airport with your uncle. Southwest will pay you the benefits, like you'll be all good.
This, that, the other, yeah, you'll be fine. This is the road to success.
And I just remember by the end of that conversation, I said, guys, I recorded you, and when I make it, I'm going to play it for you. And the look on their faces, like I don't have the recording anymore,
Sure.
but what you said that you told your mom right now, literally just reminded me of that moment. Dude, what was her face like?
I think the greatest moment was actually a few months ago when we purchased the car. I had the car delivered right here downstairs on a truck from Texas, and to see the look on my mom's face, like, whoa, here's the college dropout kid that I had that's been a troublemaker his whole entire life, speeding tickets, trouble, this, that, the other, you name it. But to see the look on her face and realizing, whoa, my kid just bought a 6-figure car. It was absolutely beautiful, and I think that this was the year where everyone, in fact, Stephanie would always say this, which is my other half, she would always say that don't flex, don't go out of my way to say like, I'm better than you, I've done this, I did everything you said I couldn't do. She said, just let your lifestyle speak for itself. And I've gotten to that point where finally you couldn't have a drop of doubt because everything you look at it's unobtainable to the average, right?
Dude, that's powerful. Now, I do have a question because
Sure.
You said that your stepdad talked about he called you a drug he said he a drug addict.
He probably wasn't wrong, for the record.
Well, I want to talk about that because sure. Like man, when I was younger, dude, I did a lot of drugs. Right, I used to love doing especially stimulants like cocaine and Molly and Adderall. So and that was like younger me, right? Which I talk about it now.
Sure.
Just because number one, I'm not ashamed of who I was.
Amen.
And who I am, right? And I think that there's a lot of people who are kind of in those cycles too, who need to see examples of people who have been there, done that, and look at where we are now. So like, what was your experience with like substances?
So I want to answer that in 2 segments. The first segment is Grant Cardone is someone who's, a billionaire. And one of the things that he said is that at age 27, he found himself at rock bottom, coming out of rehab, having nothing, having everyone tell him he was a drug addict. And the fact that I've realized, or one of the things I've realized is that, being an addict it's not bad. There's nothing wrong with that. It's what you choose to be addicted to. And the second that I turned my addiction from drugs to wanting to be addicted to succeeding and watching everyone around me be astonished by the things that I could accomplish as the dropout, as the drug addict, right? As the knucklehead who couldn't listen to anybody, that's when life instantly took off. Now, my experiences with that, I went through the gamut. I've probably done 10 plus different drugs, which I won't sit here and name them all.
Sure. But
the fact of the matter is that even with addiction, everything can be broken through your willpower, right? You need to make a decision, and the decision needs to be for yourself that you want something different. And we all know the saying, if you want something different, you got to do something different. I realized that one of the greatest things that we actually have here in the Bay Area in specific is the ability to network with such great people. And I think that what really changed my life from addict to successful young man was shifting the people that I allowed around me.
Man, you guys, if you guys ain't inspired by what Blake's saying right now, he's dropping some heat. Like, honestly, I wish we were like Brad Lee right now with the dropping bombs. Because, dude,
I'll do it for you.
But no, dude, that is some heat. And you know what? I've always been a very big believer in like proximity is power.
Oh,
right?
100%.
And you know, especially like I grew up like not even like middle class, right? Like we grew up
Sure.
like eviction to eviction.
Love that.
3-bedroom home or three-bedroom apartments with like a family in each room, right? Like coming from that background. And you also talked about how college was shoved down your throat.
Yep.
And so it was shoved down my throat too. And it sucked because I was never good at school. So the first time that I had ever heard that I could be successful was somebody actually telling me like, hey,
Yeah.
you don't need a college degree.
Or you're not crazy, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know. Like, I literally didn't even know. Like, they were like, you can be successful without a college degree. And I was like, what? Like, I remember I was 18 years old when somebody like first told me that. That's crazy, man. Let's move on to right now. I want to learn more about like the serial entrepreneur history, right?
Okay.
So the business that you have now is the one that's like really, really hit it big. But most entrepreneurs have like a history of like failures. So like, dude, like walk us through.
So it starts off as young as, 8th grade, selling candy bars at school.
Yep.
I then went on to do things that I shouldn't do, right?
Okay.
So that was another one. That did fairly well until I ran into trouble.
Yep.
And then I realized that quitting while you're up is a whole lot different than quitting.
Yeah. Okay.
From there, we did a handful of different things. Me and Stephanie, we made a meal prep service. The meal prep service did decent. But then I started to realize as I got into then selling solar, if I sold one solar system, I could make what the meal prep service was doing in an entire month. So shortly after, I realized where I put my time at needs to be as effective as possible. Proceeding from there, during the pandemic, we like to call it in our household. During the pandemic, we tried to sell a gamut of different things from, eyelashes to, that's a beautiful CTSV. Doing good, young man.
Nice.
So anyways, proceeding forward, we sold eyelashes, we sold, some like different designer bags, we sold clothing.
Which, by the way, I think my one of my good friends, Brandon BQ, he told me that he remembered you guys because you guys sold at one of his Culture Night markets.
Yeah.
And yeah, that Culture Night market's blowing up now.
Shout out to Brandon.
Yeah,
I'm like,
shout out to BQ.
love to see other entrepreneurs in the area do well. I think one of the things I want to talk about that's a little left here is that, dude, there's enough food out here for everybody to eat, and no one should feel any type of way about someone else's success. I'm like, what if someone else is winning? It has nothing to do with you. There's 100 different ways to make $100 million. So,
Okay, how about this one? What if somebody is winning and they're your direct competitor in your space? How do you feel about that?
Perfect. I think that you need to start working harder and you need to start looking at what they're doing right. I mean, competition is actually a great thing, right? It keeps you competitive. It makes you work harder. And the fact of the matter is that I want to say this. If life was about working hard, then everyone would have a fucking Ferrari. But it's not, right? It's about working smarter. So I'm like, outwork your competition, but like outwork them here, right? Not here.
Dude, oh my God.
Nah.
Dude, we need a button, Pepe. Dude, that's so good. Okay, so now you guys did the meal preps. Okay, so 8th grade, sold chocolates, and you did some, stuff that I could probably relate to.
Clothing, freaking eyelashes, purses, like a handful of different things, right? Then we sold solar for a long time. Then we sold solar and roofs. Then we got into ADUs, and then in which case the ADUs is what really like absolutely stuck. Now the next thing is that in the last 3 years, we went from $1 million in sales to $3 million in sales to $14 million in sales. So you have to ask yourself, like, what the hell is going on? What changes from 3 million to 14, right?
And you know what? So that right there, guys, is a perfect example of when a business is functioning correctly. Businesses don't grow like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Businesses can grow 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. Like, it can compound basically, right? And
20,
multiply.
40, yeah.
Right. I did. My math was fucked up, but, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? Let me ask you this, right? So before we even hop into like what you're doing, right? How did you even learn about ADUs? Like, are you a construction guy? Like, do you come from a construction background?
If you look at these hands, I am not putting my hands on any of the work. The fact of the matter is it's very simple. The opportunity was God-given. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say anything other. Shout out to Mike Figueroa, who actually changed my entire life. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you and your family. The fact of the matter is that I got into selling solar. While selling solar, I had the opportunity to work for a couple different companies, kissed a couple toads trying to find the prince kind of thing. And, moving forward, what ends up happening is as I'm selling solar, I bump into Mike Fig, right? Sometimes it's divine timing, God's timing, right? So what ends up happening is I meet Mike Fig. I end up getting the opportunity to train some of his sales team to sell solar, and I sell a job for them. It was maybe like $14K in commission. We split it. He's like, hey, thanks. Like this job alone is going to pay for the training I just paid for my team, right? So that's perfect. So now we have a good relationship. Well, I find out what he's doing aside from solar, and I'm like, yo, if we could sell that in the Bay Area, like this thing would go like wildfire.
Well, where were you?
I was in Fresno at the time. I lived here, but I would commute up and down California to make these solar sales. And I'll just tell you, even in selling solar alone, like we had months where we were making like 25 grand, right? Wow. So that was life-changing too, because it was just a few years before where I was making like, 65K salary plus commission, lucky to hit like 80, 90K, right? Yeah. So like a $25,000 a month, like this is a whole new level in life. Yeah. Now, fast forward, I bump into Mike. I'm like, dude, you gotta let me sell these things. You gotta let me sell these things. I promise you I will take off. He's like, hey, I don't want to step on any toes. You work for him. I can't like do that. That's not gonna be fair, right? Yeah. Fast forward, I end up finding out that this guy is like trying to screw me over on commissions. So I, went to Mike respectfully and was like, hey, brother, I respect you. This guy has been shorting me thousands of dollars off each job, and I started to figure it out, right? So be careful out there in these commission-based jobs. Yeah. Now, fast forward, what ends up happening from there is that because I had the respect to tell him, he looks through, is like, hey, you know what, you might be right. Well, what ends up happening from there is that I say, hey, like, I'm selling solar. Could I maybe sell under your company? He's like, you know what, let's do it. And he gives me a sweetheart deal. I'm going to make more money with him. So I'm like, cool, let's go. I bring my whole team over to him. We start selling solar under him. I made him a good amount of money. He didn't have to train me or anybody, right? So then I'm like, dude, you've got to let me sell these. He's like, you're doing great with solar. Stay where you're at. Don't worry about it. I got to a point where I was like, look, dude, I'm getting tired of selling solar. I want to sell something different. Either you teach me how to sell this or I'll find somebody who will, right? Now, once he heard that fire in my soul, that passion, he was like, dude, and it was so beautiful. On the phone, he says, all right, you want to sell them that bad? I got a training wave in 2 weeks. Be here in LA. Bet. Dropped everything, didn't care. And you have no idea, over those last few years, dude, me and Stephanie, I would be like, pack your shit. We're literally leaving to LA tomorrow. Pack your shit. We're literally on the way to Oregon tomorrow. Pack your shit. We leave to fucking Utah in 2 weeks or a week. You know what I mean? Yeah. Our life was on the go. We were chasing the bag, right? Yeah. Anyways, point of the story is that Mike goes on to teach us how to sell ADUs. And I told him, my agreement with him was, hey, you give me this opportunity, I will be your Trojan horse to the Bay Area. Well, fast forward, we've been his Trojan horse to the Bay Area. And like I said, value is a two-way street. If not but for his family, I don't think that we would have saw the success that we've seen. And he even helped us laying out a blueprint and providing us starting us off with a marketing strategy, right? So we basically franchised in. Yeah. And then from that, we refined different, processes to benefit the way we like to run things. Yeah. But nonetheless, everything flows back to.
Okay. Here's what I love about that. There's been so many times in the past, especially before my company had any type of success, I would listen to other people say oh yeah, we were hanging out with our friends and one of us hit our head and then we just thought of this idea, what happens if we create this product and then now it's a multi-million-dollar product and it's so frustrating hearing people, talk about those stories, right? And because now I look at Outsource Plug. Outsource Plug's the same way. It was an accident. It wasn't even supposed to happen. I didn't say, hey, let's start a virtual assistant or a staffing company. I wasn't thinking that.
And for any entrepreneurs that are trying to scale your business, you have to reach out because I'm going to tell you right now, having VAs was a huge part of us going from even 1 to 3 million, right? Yeah. You need somebody to answer those phone calls. You need appointment setters. If you're not doing that, you're wasting your time and whatever whatever reasonable ticket that my man has to offer is going to be well worth the while of what's going to come.
Yeah. I mean, no, definitely, man. So okay, now, so we know about how you got into ADUs, right? So let's talk a little bit more about like the specifics, right? Because what gets you from 0 to $1 million is not what's going to get you from $1 million to 3, and it's not what's going to get you from 3 million to 14. 100%. So like, if you could break down like the last 3 years, right? Year 1, year 2, year 3. If you were to just like tell us like what the difference was between these years, simply put, what would it be?
Keeping it quick. First things first. Year 1, don't be scared to get business. Do whatever it takes. Go knock down doors, right? Year 2, all right, we got the bag. We understand how to be successful. Let's go ahead and replicate ourselves, right? So build a team. Year 3, okay, things are going good, but there's got to be a much more efficient way to actually find these customers and convert them. So year 3 became all about marketing and using virtual assistants. And that's what put us through the roof.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about people. Okay?
Sure.
Because when I'm listening to you, it sounds like you had experience training a sales team, right? Tell me like about like how you got into management and who taught you how to train. Tell me more about that.
To be honest, not the cool guy stuff, but probably you can relate. But as an entrepreneur, a lot of times things are self-taught, right? Yeah. It took me having to like have several waves of salespeople come in and fail. And I will say this, and these aren't phenomenal stats, so like I'm not like a god or anything, but the fact of the matter is I've probably trained like 25 to 30 people, and I have like 6 successful people. But the 6 people that work for me make enough money to only have to work for me and not work a 40-hour week.
And by the way, that's really, really good. So like I actually didn't learn to train people through entrepreneurship. Yeah. I spent many years working for other entrepreneurs.
Nice.
And I learned on their dime. I've ended up like in court, like on accident, like, for getting like sent a paycheck type shit. Like I've like fucked up a lot in other people's companies. So I got kind of lucky there where I learned that way.
Yeah.
But I can say though, as especially like having a background in training sales teams, the fact that you have 6 out of 25 people is phenomenal. Okay, because when it comes to sales teams, there's always a lot of churn, right?
Yep.
And it also depends on the type of sales. Are you guys doing cold calling, door knocking? What are you guys doing?
So there's a gamut of different things. I mean, from time to time, I'll let them knock doors. I don't really force them to the way I was during solar. And I say force because that was like the only means of opportunity, but never am I actually making them. It is a combination of the two because inbound. I do have inbound leads that come in. I do have warm leads through advertisement, but I also have them do things to go above and beyond. Like we do have cold calls that we'll do where I have it set up where maybe it's someone that has a home that's worth, $500K plus in equity, right? Like they have $500,000 or more in equity. So I know that they can afford my product and maybe they're likely to rent their home. That is someone that I'm going to like target on a cold lead, right?
Yeah.
Aside from that, there's also word of mouth. There's also referrals, right? Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, a lot of it's coming through our advertisement. We're growing like crazy. We're at a point where I think we have maybe like between 32 and 35 customers so far this year. And a lot of these projects are now starting to be built. And in which case, a lot of these construction companies are relying on word of mouth because they're older, but because we're younger and we are on top of the technology, The beauty of it is as I start to have 35 plus homes being built here locally in the Bay Area, our company's brand is going to continue to start jumping. Yep. And I'm very confident to say next year we're going to do a minimum of at least 25 million.
And how much easier is it to sell to a neighborhood when you're like, hey, you see our signs down there?
Go ahead and walk a block. Yeah.
And then walk the next block. And it's the Jones effect, right?
Yep.
So the Jones effect, like, hey, they're doing it.
Yeah.
We should do it too. My first sales job was selling door-to-door vacuums, so like the Kirby vacuums. Dude.
Let's go, brother. I'm right there with you. I did it. Yeah.
Right. So that was...
What was your numbers?
Oh, bro, oh my God. I stayed there 11 months.
Oh, wow.
I was there for a while. And my mom was so pissed. Like, I would come home with like blisters on my feet. Like, it was just bad. But like,
But you got grit from there. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's where I learned how to sell. And also, I was an introvert before I worked there.
Beautiful.
That brought out the extrovert in me. and I never went back.
I love it. I love it.
But I remember though, when we would sell a vacuum, it was so much easier to sell the next one. We're like, hey, your neighbor down the block there, they just bought one.
Yeah.
It just makes it so much easier, right? So to drop multiple, I think the most I ever dropped in one day is just 3, but it was.
Damn, bro, I beat you by 1.
Swear.
I swear to God.
He's a god. Because dude, you guys don't have no idea, how much were you guys selling them for?
Maybe like 2,000 or
Okay,
something.
we were right around there too. But you guys have no idea how hard it is to knock on a door and convince somebody that like this vacuum that they
this $2,000 vacuum is something that your household needs. Yeah.
Yeah. So then that shit was crazy.
Respect, by the way.
To you too. No, because that's, I mean, dude, like going from Kirby and then going to sell AT&T after. So I just went from one door-to-door job to another. Dude,
Yeah.
AT&T was fucking easy. that shit was like a cakewalk.
Yeah, in
compared to
comparison, yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, I went to manage a AT&T store, and Oak Ridge Mall was historically the slowest mall of all of these stores that this third-party company had.
And I bet you turned that thing all the way around.
We did not beat the number 1 store, but we went number 2, and we were like right Southland Mall,
Wow.
where they had like the nicest booth, and everybody walked up to them to buy AT&T. Like our booth was ghetto.
Yeah.
we didn't even have like uniforms and
Hey!
like, yeah, exactly. Like hey, you dropped your pocket. No, I'm just kidding. Like
Yeah, come on over here. Come on over here, though. Now that I got your attention, yeah.
So, somebody's watching this right now, okay? And they're in, that position where their company has like, they know how to sell. And now it's time for them to start training salespeople. What's the number 1 tip that you could give to somebody who is training salespeople?
I would say first things first, all personalities are different, right? So understand who you're working with. Some people I have to crack the whip on and be like, you're a boss, but you're not acting like it. And then some people I have to say, hey, look, it's all right. You did this wrong. Here's how you can do it better. So knowing the person. Secondly, I think advice for anybody that's doing sales, everybody knows, ABC, it's one of the oldest sayings that like for the test of time in sales, always be closing. But really where the real game is it's ABP. It's always be prospecting, because he who shakes the most hands and kisses the most babies goes ahead and collects the most checks.
Hey, no, that's real right there. So we definitely have like, our upbringings are a little different. They're different, but not really, because everything that you had growing up wasn't yours.
I knew it wouldn't be either, yeah.
And it wouldn't be either over time. So now, okay, you just got the car. Like, what are some things that you like to splurge on now that,
We spend a lot of money on food. I'm like, got a baller belly, and that's for a reason. I'm like, these things are hard to get. I'm like, if your man don't got one, then he's probably not a man. I'm saying. Nah, but we spend a lot of money on food. We enjoy spending money on travel, things of that nature. I mean, normal people stuff. I do like designer clothes here and there, but really I think that like it's not about like what you wear, but who's wearing it, right? I think that's a big thing. So for all you guys on the come up, don't waste your money on stupid cars. Don't waste your money on stupid clothes. Wait until you have like a substantial amount in the bank to be comfortable, and then treat yourself every now and then. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm like, I don't make any more sales with a pair of Gucci shoes on than I do a pair of Adidas. I'm like, I don't make any more sales with the Porsche than I did with the Infiniti, right? Like, people do not look at your stuff. Also, for the young men out there, I used to think that the car would help me get more girls, right? But let me tell you this. I realized this in life. Every girl that I had ever pulled never saw my car until after I had already gained the connection.
Damn.
So if you're in a rush to get the car, maybe slow down and invest in something.
Yeah, that's smart as hell. And you know what? For those of you who haven't owned foreign cars, dude, I'm driving the Audi right now, and I remember the first, it was an Audi A8L.
Okay,
and the first,
big body.
Dude, the big body one, right? And I remember the first time I had to go get the brakes done, they were like $2,500. I was like, God damn, $2,500. I remember like not $250, like you mean $2,500? Like, God damn, because I drove a Toyota Corolla.
Why is there another zero on this?
Yeah, dude. So Blake's right. Definitely be very wise with your money. If I could go do it over again, I probably would have kept the Corolla, honestly, because I remember like when I got the Audi too, it was like right before the pandemic, and I was like, oh, I'm about to go like flex while with my Audi everywhere.
Yeah, check me out.
I didn't even get to flex. I still got it now, but it's just like whatever. I don't give a shit.
You've had it for long enough to let the wanderlust pass.
Yeah, you get bored after a few months anyway. Actually, have you got bored of the Porsche yet?
I love the car. Don't get me wrong. It's a freaking trophy that's going to sit in the garage, right? I do enjoy driving it down the street. I mean, it's a V8 twin turbo, so it feels beautiful to open it up down the block, and it fulfills my inner, child, the 6-year-old, if you will. But the fact of the matter is like I said, like at the end of the day, all these items are just items, which is why I'm going to say this. I would love to buy a few more cars, but I'm going to be making a few more investments before I buy a few more cars, and I'll probably buy somebody else a car before I buy another car. So
that's deep.
Yeah.
So now I want to touch on a little bit more tactics, right? So again, the real overall topic is scalability.
Sure.
Right? Also, I didn't ask this. Have you and girlfriend or wife?
She's damn near my wife, but we're needing to bridge the gap.
Okay, so let's just say you and your partner then.
Sure.
Let's make it easy.
Sure.
So were you two together the entire duration of, by the way, I didn't even compliment you on the name of your company, dude.
Oh, thank you.
Pure Materials?
Yes, sir.
You thought of that?
I did, actually.
That's a dope ass name.
And it started from, what was the company? It was Applied Materials that I liked the concept, and I thought, all right, well, like pure. And then I said to myself, like, things of quality always come from something pure, right? So that's how we came up with Pure Materials. I had people make fun of me and say, like, well, it's not a very good name for a construction company. And I'm like, what do you want me to be like? Jonathan's Construction? Like,
dude, no, Pure Materials is dope. I love it. And like,
appreciate that.
Your guys' logo, everything is sick. But yeah, coming back to the question though, so have you been with your partner from the beginning of the company?
Dude, actually, I have to give my girl some flowers while she's here, which is why she is going to have to be my wife. I'm like, that's not even a choice.
Yeah.
Stephanie saw me growing these solar companies, building teams, not getting along with with superiors, or like feeling like I was smarter than people I was working for, and basically would see me leave and go to the next company for a higher pay, right? In the solar industry, they call it chasing the red line, but I did make some phenomenal jumps. Now, yeah, I'm like, your boys still move nice out there. Every jump I came up, just know that.
Yeah.
So proceeding forward, I will build these teams up. I would leave. Some of my team would come with me. Some of them would stay, right? Well, Stephanie says to me one day, dude, what are you doing building these teams and leaving? Like, you just need to start your own brand so that people will stick. And if you jump, they have to come because they're under your umbrella, right? So we end up doing that. And check this out. In December is when we started our company. Literally, we filed the LLC on like December 28th. So it was like 2 or 3 days before the year ends, we decided to start this company. And one of the dopest things ever, we ended up getting COVID and having to basically, like, we're supposed to open up our office, and we ended up not being able to open it because of having COVID. And it was so dope. We ended up doing, I want to say, like $19,000 or $20,000 in take home, like from our house in my room, right? Like,
dude, oh yeah, bro, you must have felt like an evil genius at that time, dude.
Bro, I was like, everybody's like, I'm broke, and I'm like, nigga, I came up from my room. You know what I mean?
Bro, hey, but you know what? We see all these like.
Oh, and Stephanie made all the marketing. I'm like, all the logos, everything you see, videos. I'm like, Stephanie makes it all.
Dude,
everything.
Shout out to Stephanie. If you don't have a partner like that.
It's my secret weapon, I'll be honest.
Yeah. So you see all these stories of people making money online, and like you see
the
all
gurus,
right? The gurus, and then it happens to you, and you're like, "Holy shit!" Wait, what does Russ say? Goddamn, motherfucker, that worked.
Oh shit! yeah, for real.
Dude, okay. So you guys have been together throughout this entire thing. Now, let's say that
from day one.
I mean, bro, you ultimately, it goes back to
her words is low-key what started this company.
Right. I mean, dude, like I've actually met a few men who have really great women behind them, and so a lot of times the men don't listen to the women as much as they should, and I'll like sit there and listen to them like, yeah, dude, your girl's
kind of right. Yeah,
a lot right.
I have one of those. Sometimes I don't always want to listen, you know.
But basically, what advice would you give to someone who has a partner in business, and how do you make it work, dude?
$1 million question. For the record, let me say that we don't have it all figured out. The reality of it is that working day in and day out, like, working, sleeping, eating, traveling, like we do 95% of our life together, which is like, honestly, it's beautiful because how many people can experience like being able to have that much time with their significant other. Sometimes they say like absence, right? makes the heart grow fond.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that we have a lot of time to bond. Sometimes we bump heads, but it's just learning to realize, like, first off, my partner has my best interests in mind. So sometimes, like, you know, as a man, we want to be like, I'm not trying to listen to that. But
I'm like that 100%.
Yeah. You're like, who's the man of the house? Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of the time she has said, like, great things. One of the other things that we did that was, like, game changing, and once again, this is like a Stephanie idea, was she was like, yo, we got to stop. Like, we have more appointments than we can physically put bodies in locations this week. Like, we've got to do something different. And it was actually her idea to make our company run completely, like, virtually. And we then started doing all of our estimates virtually. Well, by doing that, it allowed us to run more appointments in a smaller amount of time.
Yeah.
So servicing more people. And then on top of that, it also cut down the cost because there was now no longer the cost of having to travel.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that ended up being a game changer for our company. So definitely, fellas, like, listen to your girl. There's a lot of times where my girl will say something and then, like, I'll hear it from another, like, solid entrepreneur, and then I'll be like, yeah, I should do that. And she's like, motherfucker, I told you that already. Yeah.
Dude.
I just needed it from a second source. That's all.
You know, here's the tough one, right? I also see a lot where, like, a lot of men or women, okay,
Sure.
both will have already built, like, a very successful business, like they're set.
Yeah.
And then they have a partner that comes in, right? And then it gets kind of messy because, like, you know, I think you're blessed to have built it together.
It definitely is a blessing. It's an honor. It can be a challenge at times because, you know, we may not always see everything eye to eye.
Dude,
but
those are two of the most difficult things in the world, a relationship and a business.
Yeah.
And you guys have both in one.
together, yeah. I think all in all, it's just more so about respect more than anything, trying not to move without the other person's, like, agreement, right?
Yeah.
And I think that if you can at least say, like, all right, I won't make any, like, hasty business decisions without bouncing it off one or the other. Like, I know that she's not going to make any changes to marketing or anything without, like, running it by me first.
Yeah.
Just the same way she knows I'm not going to drop, like, $20,000 on an investment in the company without being like, yo, you think it's a good idea? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah, I would have such a hard time with that.
I'm very, very, like, alpha male, like, dominant,
Yeah.
right? But then I feel like I also have, like, an alpha female, but I think that, like, the reason why you could never beat us, I'm like, here's message to my competition. The reason why you could never beat us is because while you have 2 hands on a project, I have 4 hands on a project. And more importantly, I can take my 2 hands off my project, go work on a different project, and still be where you're at.
It's a really interesting topic, right? Like, and let me ask you this. How many hours are both of you putting into the business right now, like weekly?
Right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you want the truth or a good lying?
No, the truth. Yeah, I don't want no bullshit. Like, come on, let's give the people, like, real talk.
To be honest with you, we're probably, like, putting in maybe, like, 20 to 25 hours.
Okay.
Maybe even less sometimes.
Do you feel like that's the right amount, or you feel like you're being lazy, or you feel like, you know?
I think that I could be being lazy, but I'll tell you this. Yeah. What you don't see and what you may not understand is that the last 2 years I worked like 80 hours a week. And so...
No, more than 80 hours.
Yeah.
No.
Day in, day out. Like, I used to run all the sales. Like, almost every sale came through me for a long, long time. And the point is that, like, while one person worked over the last 2 years, I put in 4 years of work in 2 years. So if I only work 25 hours in a week, like, it's because I've A, earned the right to, but B, the other thing is that I need time to recoup because I don't want to burn out. And I know that what we're going is a long haul. And I'm like, really, the ultimate goal is for us to build this up and be able to sell in about 4 or 5 years. So we just hired a business consultant that overlooked a lot of our stuff, said that we definitely have, that we have something here, and that we just need to continue to build and structure things properly so that the exit is, like, you know.
Okay, so he hired somebody to give him this advice. So can you, like, give up some game, man?
As far as exit
goes?
or?
Yeah, if you're preparing your business for exit, what should people be doing? Because honestly, like, I think that's something that a lot of people. Okay,
sure, I got you.
A lot of people get into business and they don't think about the end. They don't think of an exit. They don't think of, like, what the fuck they're gonna do.
I think the outsource plug has great advice for this, but we'll give it to you from Blake, right? The fact of the matter is that your company needs to have processes. It needs to be profitable. It needs to be scalable. It needs to be repeatable. There needs to be, you know, obviously, like I said, process SOPs so that if you're not there, it's still going to be able to run. And then more importantly, someone needs to be able to look at this and say, sweet, if I could enhance marketing, if I could put capital behind this, that it would absolutely dominate. And then the next thing is they want to know that if you, the owner, is not there, that it can still turn without you. Because if you're the key player and you're the thing that makes, if you're the heartbeat of the organization, like that's actually a problem.
It is a problem, and it's most entrepreneurs' problems.
Yes.
Right? So a lot of people think like, oh, Anthony's fucking smart as shit because his company runs itself. No, dude. I ended up in the hospital because I was working so much.
Yep.
And that's how like I couldn't work for 2 weeks. And then my team steps up while I'm sick, and they go and they run the company and
Fucking slay shit.
slayed it
Yeah.
better than I did. And then I'm like, okay. But that's a shitty way to learn.
Yep.
Like it's a shitty. Don't get sick. Like fuck that. So like talk to the people and like tell them what they need to hear. Like
I think at the end of the day, if you really want some wise advice in business, I'm like, it takes capital to do everything, but really you should have a paid mentor. I'm like, if you want to succeed, that's really the only way it's going to happen. I was fortunate enough for us in construction to have a mentor that I didn't have to pay because I worked under him, and so my revenue, the revenue makes them money, right?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is like we have a paid for business consultant right now. I have a paid for like accountant that handles like taxes and stuff like that. With shout out to the tax man, my guy, Mr. Theo. I'm like, we'll tag you somehow, some way. This guy literally saved us like, in the last year alone, he saved us like over $50,000 on taxes. So I'm like, my guy's nice.
damn.
If you need him, you let me know.
I'll definitely let you know.
So back the bus up. Here's a clip for you. When it comes to business, when it comes to advice, there's two things that I live by. You need to have either A, accomplished what I'm set out to do for me to listen to you, or B, you need to be living a lifestyle that I'd like to emulate. If you do not meet those two requirements, I love you, I will listen to it, but it is totally in one ear and out the other. Because if I let everybody's 2 cents hold weight in my bank, if you will, then I would have accomplished nothing. And there was a lot of people on the way up that said, go back to school, get back in software sales. Are you sure you want to do that? The product's really expensive. Where are you going to find the customers? There's every excuse in the world. And those are the same people that, were making more than their salary in 1 month, right? And those are the same people that are saying, hey, can you help me? Can I hold something? Can I do this? Can I do that, right? Yeah. And it's no disrespect. It's always love. But what I'm realizing is that, like I said, you gotta take advice from someone who's done it.
Yeah.
Period.
And you know what? So this goes. I was actually curious about this earlier of like who taught you actual entrepreneurship, because for me, I spent a lot of money on Tony Robbins. I've gone to Danny Johnson, if anybody knows of her. I've bought like plenty of audios and seminars that I've gone to. Having a paid mentor is 1,000% like. It has to happen. Okay?
Worth it.
It's not just worth it. Like it's mandatory. Like honestly, like you will listen to somebody more when they take money from you. And especially if it's more money than you.
I saw that on the BQ podcast, and that's facts.
Yeah, no, it is true. Like, you'll take it more serious. So for those of you who are entrepreneurs right now and you are the main person and the business cannot function without you, with or without you, the main thing that you need to do in your business is figure out a way for your team to collaborate. That's going to probably be through some sort of platform like a project management system. And when you have a project management system, what's really cool is like it doesn't really matter what kind of company.
What CRM are you on?
CRM is HubSpot,
okay.
Which is cool too. With HubSpot, like man, we have like 7 to 10 different people touch a sale before it even closes, right? And we can see everything that's happening inside of HubSpot.
Yep.
And that's like during the sales side. And then finally, when that closes and turns into a client, we have like a project management side. So most businesses only need one or the other. Yours might need both, the CRM and the project management system. But go look into Monday.com, go look into Podio, go look into Asana. There's all these different great projects where the way to pull yourself out is to have that system to leverage. And also, like, let's just say that you're away for a week, a project gets fucked up, you come back, you should be able to look at that project management system and see exactly who dropped the ball and where they dropped the ball in the process. So make sure you guys get that.
Agreed.
Coming back to the question, like, so I know you've talked about who gamed you up on ADUs.
Yep. Okay,
I know that you have your tax person, you mentioned Grant Cardone, but who else has like had a lot of influence in your mindset as a business person?
There's a few people I follow that I like. I like the Hermazi family, like Alex and Layla are dope.
Dude, they're incredible.
Dude, Grant Cardone's actually a huge part of like why our life has changed so much, as crazy as it sounds. As I was starting to come up, shout out to my boy Brian Fobbs, who's like a fitness trainer guru. He works for Tempo as one of the face of their workout platform. I don't know if you're familiar with Tempo.
No, I haven't.
Actually, he
Is it
gifted me one. It's right there. I'm like, I don't use it, but
Is it
I
like
got
Peloton?
one. But anyways, what ends up happening, Brian takes me to a Robert Hekrovich, one of the guys from the Shark Tank, and he basically speaks, so I start to listen. Then I find out that Grant Cardone's coming in town, he's throwing a free seminar. Of course, they're trying to sell you some shit, right?
Of course.
So I tell Stephanie, like, hey, I really want to go to this Grant Cardone thing. And she's like, you know what, like, best girlfriend in the world, super fucking supportive. Like, yeah, babe, like, let's go, and I'll go with you. I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it, right?
Yeah.
So we go. We learn. I'm taking as much game as I can, right? Pen and paper. And I saw you post something about that. You're like, writing down is the best way to accept or retain the information. My writing is chicken scratch. I barely even understand my own writing. But guess what? When I go pen on paper, it locks in. So I understand.
I can't even read it later, but
Yeah. But we got it here now, so it's good.
Exactly.
But proceeding forward, at this event, they end up being like, hey, spend $5,000 on this package in the back. And I'm like, I ain't got that $5. Like, I'm out, right? We're going to shake and shimmy, we're wiggling out of here.
We'll take payments.
Yeah. I'm like, hell no. I'm one of those firm believers. I'm like, let me get as much free game as I can and I'll run, right?
Yeah.
So I dip. As we're walking out, Stephanie says something to me that was like a pivotal moment in my life, right? And she's like, oh my God, babe, like, I really think that you could be on, I think you could do that. Like, I think you could speak on stage. And I was like, yo, I think I could do that shit too, right? So ever since then, we've been on a mission, and it's like, dude, I think the craziest thing about entrepreneurship is like, there's no straight line. Like, dude, there's been like ups, downs, like, dude, there was one time where it was my birthday and I was on my way to Vegas, and I was like, bro, I got like a band in my account right now and I'm about to go fuck off. And like, I left Vegas with, I kid you not, maybe like $40 in my account, but then a few days later had like over $60,000. So I'm like,
wow.
It's, you get what I'm saying? And the thing is you can relate, like, as the owner, like, you're throwing every dollar to make shit shake. And so thank God we don't have to live like that anymore. I've, put a lot of reserve away, that's the next thing. As an entrepreneur, there may be a lot of money coming in. You don't know when it's going to rain or when it's going to pour or when it's going to be a drought. And so I always say it's feast or famine, right? So because of that, when it is feast, a lot of that feast needs to get put off to the side, because that's the quickest way to have health issues, is the anxiety of being like, where the fuck's my next check? Yeah. Well, guess what? If I'm sitting on plenty of checks, then I'm not so worried when there's 2 or 3 slow months, right? So that's very important.
You know what? That's actually why I started a monthly recurring business, a monthly recurring revenue business.
Because subscription.
Because I'm a single father, right? Or as I was building this, I had full custody of my son. I couldn't rely on because I sold websites, and it was like, that was like project, but after project. I didn't know if my next project was coming in a month, a week, a year.
6 months, just whatever. I know what you mean.
So I was like, you know what? I didn't know that I wanted the type of company that I have now, but I knew that it was going to be a monthly recurring revenue model. Like, that's what I knew. All right, we've learned a lot about a lot about Pure Materials, a lot about your past. Man, you've given some great advice. Now, you and I met because of one of your brain children, HVN, high value networking.
Yep.
And we met through my homie Mike Lee.
Shout out to the guy.
Shout out to the motherfucking mayor.
Yeah, right? I'm like, if you're in San Jose, you're in his city, all right?
Exactly. You got to come check in with Mike Lee. So first off, tell us, like, how did the thoughts come about, and how you guys made it happen, and finally, like, what is the vision for HVN?
Love that. So HVN, high value networking, very simple. We spent a lot of money going to seminars over the last several years. Everyone should be doing that. If you have money to spend on Gucci shoes, you had better spend that $1,000 on learning a skill, because Alex Hormozzi says this, but really, like, you can pay $50,000 in a year or two to learn the skills that it takes to make a fucking $1 million in a year, right? So we had a year where we spent like almost 14 grand in seminars, and that was the best thing we ever did. Well, with that, I realized that nobody was doing seminars here in the North Bay, right? Yeah. I was like, dude, they're always in the Bay Area, period. Okay. We always have to go to Los Angeles for them. And someone that you guys should follow, even though he's a little wild, Alberto Perciato.
The mortgage dude?
Yeah. Phenomenal businessman, right? Yeah. So pretty wild, definitely a wild card. Kind of reminds me of myself sometimes. Yeah. But the point of the story is that he hosted these events called Driven, and those were something where I basically saw like, okay, if we bring like high value people here, like a lot of people are going to be able to learn from it, and I've been able to learn tons of stuff that changed my life, right? Yeah. So I realized like this is, as any entrepreneur would, there's a void in the market here, and it's not happening here. So we decided that we would build it, and I told myself I could care less if it made if it made revenue, if it made us money. We have been slightly profitable, nothing to like run home like and tell mom about, but like at least we're not losing money.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is that it was also about blowing up like our personal brand, because as a business owner, really our personal brand drives a lot of business back to our businesses. Yep. I mean, that's how we met, right? Yeah. On top of that, like I said, our whole company ended up getting a raise out of it because of working with another contractor and then realizing like, you know what, we were better off with the previous contractor, but let's renegotiate, right? Yeah. So the real vision behind it is to just continually like bring high net worth individuals, people who are like 1%ers in their industry, come in, game everybody up on what it takes to become a top producer in maybe 5 years instead of 10.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is that I firmly don't believe in college. And so I want everybody to win.
Neither do I.
Without going to college. And respectfully, I'm a high school dropout that got my GED 6 months ahead of my class. On paper, I'm literally a 1%er based on my age.
Dude, you know what's funny is like my son, he wants to go to college. He plays football. He wants to go to LSU.
It's a dream,
yeah, it's like his dream to go to LSU. And I'm making it very clear. No, dude, I'm making it very clear. Like, hey, like, you know, I will totally pay for you to go to college, but not that I care about the education. I want you to go and have like the most amount of fun that you can possibly have. Like, I want you.
I would have had that.
Dude, yeah, like I want you to like live your life and enjoy the fuck out of your life. Like, not because I care about the degree. He'll probably end up running one of my businesses anyways, right? Yep. But
get the network while you're there. Yep.
100%, dude. That's it. So, dude, and I can definitely back like everything that you're saying. You're only 3 or 4 events in.
I think we're at 4. We actually paused this month. I think we might try to do something for next month. I think where we're at and kind of where I'm trying to shift things is I don't know if I necessarily want to do like these 2-hour events anymore. I think I want to structure it to where it's like an 8-hour day and people are spending anywhere from like $100 to like, you know, $3,000 to be in the room, but then giving them access to like really, really big names. I'm kind of in the process of trying to restructure it. Yeah. Obviously, I'll be working with my other partners as well. Totally. And like I said, I'm like, you know, even on camera, like I think you could be a great asset to what we have being built. And so obviously I'll need to talk to everybody.
You guys are hearing this first.
But yeah, I'm like, I think that it would make sense to bring in someone like yourself, because at the end of the day, dude, it takes a village. I'm like, it can't, like if it's just me or it's just Mike or it's just Stephanie, it would never run. Like it runs, but it barely runs with us 3. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna tell you something, bro. I got the biggest village. Yeah. Just because I got the Filipinos and the Latinos. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, sold to the Negro and the gold.
Hey, but all right, man, guys, this has been a fucking awesome episode. Blake, you've dropped like a crazy amount of knowledge. With that being said, if there is somebody who's watching this who wants to find you, how do they get in contact with you?
Pretty simple. You can reach out on Instagram at Builds by Blake. It'll give access to all the other different companies that we have going on. You know, I think eventually one of the things I want to do is probably do some consulting myself. Yeah. Just to kind of educate people on how other businesses can be started. And one of the things that I will say, I'm going to drop one more crazy bomb here, but a lot of people don't realize, like, sometimes the service that you're offering, you could actually branch off and do a whole nother business out of it. And so one of the things that we're considering doing is actually in Pure Materials, we do ADUs and additions, but we're considering opening up another brand. It's going to be a sister company that's going to literally retarget all the same people specifically for either like kitchen remodels or bathroom remodels, and now we get to run off with more millions off the same list.
You're there you go. Anyway, man, thank you for all the game.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Thank you for hosting. Man, your apartment's dope.
It's a work in progress.
I'm not going to give away the location, but he lives in a really nice luxury building, guys. But all right, y'all take care.
Peace.